Welcome to Courageous Conviction. Remember that Jeff and I record each Saturday 5 episodes. So please hit the like button, subscribe so you catch all 5 episodes. We usually start out with one theme or topic. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes to really understand it. Some things are more sensitive than others right now, what's going on in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe, and let's jump into this video. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about some things that are probably a little sensitive for some people to be able to swallow or handle. You know, on the 9th of June, Saudi Arabia did not renew the agreement, the 50-year-old agreement with the U.S. using the dollar, obligating all countries of the world to buy petroleum, the crude oil, based on the dollar. The petrodollar came to an end. So the U.S. dollar is no longer the world currency. Many countries are still using it, but you got 50 countries meeting up with BRICS, the BRICS nations, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and the South African nations. There's 50 countries now that have jumped on this whole BRICS movement to come together, including with Saudi Arabia, to now create a new key currency or a system of currencies that will be used now for buying and selling crude oil. And in some instances, we're hearing that the dollar will not be able to be used at all. And if anybody tries to use the dollar in some of these organizations or these platforms, they'll be penalized. There is a movement to get away from the dollar now. This current administration has weaponized the dollar to a point, not only with its citizens, but with foreign. Say what you want to about Russia, Ukraine, the Islamic nations rising up against the Jewish nation, and so forth. Say what you want about China and justify either side you want to. The reality of this is that the U.S. dollar, with its inflation it carries, with the printing that's taken place to this point now, is at an end of being the dominant global currency. Governments and people and citizens of other nations are tired of the U.S. coming in and sanctioning them because they're part of what's called TradFi, traditional finance, the banking system in the world, which is established and set up, the whole SWIFT system, by the U.S. banking system. And it's run, if you will, by the Department of Treasury of the United States of America. And then the interest rates and so forth that are used in that banking system are established by the Federal Reserve of the United States of America. And countries are tired of having to kowtow to the U.S. If the U.S. is good, then they're good. If the U.S. is bad, then they're bad. Or vice versa. If the U.S. is good, they're bad. Because that makes their currency go down, means they have to buy more dollars, and which makes more burden on the people. They're tired of the system. The U.S. has abused this for many, many years. Now, look, I was a very pro defend America patriot. I would travel around and these people in these countries start bashing on my country and tell them about this or that, what had happened, Panama and Chile and so forth, Nicaragua, in our interventions and whether it was right or whether it was wrong. I always defended the U.S., but I was pretty ignorant. I just defended it because of my pride. And I think that that's what a lot of us still do, just because of pride. Now, I'm not saying because certain politicians in the U.S. made these mistakes or certain individual organizations or business made the mistakes is that we don't defend what America should be standing for, what America really is, what that Constitution offers us, and the freedoms and the agency we have here, responsible freedoms, that is. That being said, we have sort of a role of protector of freedom, sort of. But then again, our founding fathers often said we just worry about ourselves. Let the other countries worry about themselves. You trade with each other, that's fine. Don't get involved in each other's wars because we just get pulled into wars like we're happening now. What I want to do is talk a little bit about why these countries are going to leave the dollar and the M-Bridge program that's taking place that will basically unite a whole new trading bloc. And it's being united already. It's just well underway. Now, this whole BRICS idea has been around for years, but it didn't really get wings until Joe Biden's administration started sanctioning Russia like they did. Not just that, but the NATO countries. And, you can dig into this whole thing. Was Russia at fault or not? I suggest many people look into that more. Ukraine is not exactly a country that's a free country, any different than Russia is, and that has a true democratic government. As we just saw, they suspended the elections, which they might try to do here too. These games I've seen played out in Latin America for a third of my life. Let's listen to why they are banning the US dollar. Let's talk a little bit with a podcaster. Let's show what she had in this interview and talk a little bit about this video and discuss. You can hear from the horse's mouth why they're leaving the US dollar and how much potential is behind that US dollar. Now, in this podcast, I think that the host is being a little bit too sympathetic. Though she is very pro-American, she's a foreigner, but she defends our freedom, she defends our economy here. She just also does not like to see the abuse that the government, especially a government here that many consider an illegitimate government, is doing to other countries to cause us as Americans to feel this huge hit now of not having that consistency and that dominance in the world as far as the dollar goes, so that we could count on good times. Now we're gonna have to see where the dollar falls to. We're gonna have to see what we turn to. And a great excuse now is to not even have a dollar. The digital currencies coming in. I'm not talking about the crypto that we hear about, Bitcoin and things like that are decentralized. I'm talking about government-controlled digital currencies like FedNow and the dollar. Let's talk about that, and let's jump in this video right now with this podcaster. She's really good, and I'll put her link down below. And I think that, let's pay attention. Let's let her talk. Walter, go ahead and start the video.
There's no doubt that a technology architecture such as mBridge limits the ability by which a single country can intervene in the transactions of other countries. And that's one of the main attractive features of a distributed ledger architecture. So in that sense, there is no doubt in my mind that the ability of the United States to weaponize dollar-based transactions through its ability to influence the operations of SWIFT will be curtailed going forward.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm excited to welcome back Warwick Powell. Warwick is adjunct professor at Queensland University of Technology in Australia and a senior fellow at Taihe Institute in Beijing. Warwick is also an expert in all things blockchain and digital technologies, which is the focus of our conversation today. Warwick, welcome back. I'm so happy to see you again.
Great to be here again with you.
CBDC project mBridge has been making headlines in recent months. Blockchain-based mBridge does not support settlements made in US dollars, from what I understand. And this may mean that once completed, it will become the system that will accelerate de-dollarization around the world. Effectively, its goal is to become the basis for a global alternative financial system, the system that will support multipolarity. Warwick, could you start us off by walking us through what Project mBridge is, how it is structured, and who are the key stakeholders?
Sure, let's try and break it down. Project mBridge is a collaborative project involving a number of central banks, together with a larger group of central banks and associated financial regulators from different countries in the world as observers. So the founding partners in the project are the Bank of International Settlements, the Monetary Authority of Hong Kong, and the central banks of China, the UAE, and Thailand. More recently, the Central Bank of Saudi Arabia has joined as a full participating member. The way that this project works is that it's actually organized, before we get to the technology part, is that it's organized in effect as a multi-party committee-based governance system, whereby the principal participants have worked together to co-design and progressively test and implement and retest a technology to tackle some long-standing problems in cross-border payment settlements. The problems that they're trying to tackle really go to the costs and the time inefficiencies, together with the risks of censorship that come from the traditional architecture of cross-border settlements. The way that cross-border settlements historically has worked is that the settlement of transactions between organizations in different countries actually takes place through a series of steps. And those steps involve relationships between those organizations and their commercial bank, the commercial bank and its relationship to that country's central bank, and that central bank's relationship to the counterparty central bank, and then back down the architecture to the counterparty organization. So when transactions are being undertaken traditionally, they ultimately have to be settled through central bank to central bank messaging, whereby the ledgers in both of those banks are adjusted accordingly, where the ledger in one central bank is added to and the ledger in the counterparty bank is subtracted.
What we're going to see here, what we just got done explaining here was TradFi. That's the FDIC, not the FDIC. That is SWIFT. That is SWIFT. That's the SWIFT banking system that we've traditionally known as for the last 50 years internationally, right? And pretty much all countries have been connected to the SWIFT. But now you're going to see this huge moving away from the SWIFT. It's going to be affected, as you saw in the intro. So as you understand, we just talked about the current banking system, the SWIFT. Now with mBridge, it's going to affect the SWIFT because the mBridge, these platforms, and that's what basically this is a platform for these BRICS nations to use, this mBridge will not accept US dollar. I thank you for being with us on Courageous Conviction. Remember, there's 5 episodes each week that we put out. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes, so stay with us, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and don't miss tomorrow's episode on Courageous Conviction.